Hello, my name is Alexander Vito Fornino. I'm a certified public accountant, and I'm running for Congress, U.S. Congress, in Florida's 27th Congressional District. This is the second of two videos of me showcasing my website, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope you learn, and I hope you donate. And we'll move my camera image over here this way to the donate button, but actually I'll move it down here because I will be reading on that section of it. Let me see. Okay, I'm centered. That's good. Let me quickly scroll down here so you can pause and read. If you want to read, I've already explained the home page here and my about page. The person here, again, is Elijah Manley, who I'm with here. I gave him this book, and he is running for U.S. Congress, I think in the 21st District, which is essentially around somewhere in Broward County, quite north of mine. But, he's a good man, young man, and I believe he has a bright future. Maybe brighter than mine, but we'll see what happens. All right. So here's my about page. I even have some different colors so you can see some details, like the emphasis. All right. Let me see. All right. My stands on the issues. Let me scroll down yet again as we go page by, sort of chapter by chapter, more or less, essentially, kind of like plank by plank, and then there's some things on the planks, and these bullet points are the most important. Those are what I'm putting first here. Let me get to the modern monetary introduction, just so we have an understanding here. So, the only problem with government deficits is that the money distributed can be inflationary. We cannot go bankrupt to our own treasury that ultimately creates all dollars. That's how monetarily sovereign nations work. The debt ceiling is a myth. However, if government payments to people affected by inflation keep rising, the net effect is null. Some people have more money, but things cost more. It evens out. But then again, better yet, the money can make its way to and remain in businesses that invest in counter-inflationary assets. That's a business term. Just essentially things like buildings, machinery, land. You could also include things like patents. But, so there's that. The economy can grow and provide for all. As Stephanie Kelton wrote in the Deficit Myth, government spending is not like a household budget. It does not have to be balanced. And government spending can still stimulate the economy, creating a multiplier effect that benefits everyone. Now let's get to it. These are the planks. So I have the first three being like essential parts of my platform, as I believe they are very important. Our senior citizens have worked hard when employed and at home, and younger parents are in the process of doing so. I intend to make sure that our government benefits both. If elected, I would untie Social Security. I just had to stretch there. From its payroll tax fund, and instead make it a guaranteed payment from federal general funds, with no more underfunding concerns. I would make all Social Security benefits no less than $3,000 per month a healthy income for all. I use the term healthy income because you can technically live off of maybe even $500 a month, but then you probably wouldn't have a home, You probably wouldn't have clean water, good food, health care, or health insurance. So it's not exactly healthy living, but it is still living. So I emphasize the term healthy income, as in you can live off that income for a full length of a lifetime. My family's and facilities first tax bill, I have that naming scheme, like I include the name specifically because it's a unique idea. It would help families by quadrupling the credit for other dependents, credit for other dependents, such as senior immigrants, tripling the child tax credit, and doubling the standard deduction, and by making those credits fully refundable. So instead of just reducing the amount you have to pay to the IRS in your tax return, it would actually it would give you a refund, some money from the government, in like just kind of as a benefit, to reward people taking care of their families. My camera might be covering up a bit of this. Yeah, a little bit. Okay. Well, I'll scroll down. No matter how intense their labor, workers are underpaid and overworked by the captains of industry. We need an economy that benefits those without property more and helps them become shareholders and partners. I would fully support the Protecting the Right to Organize Act as proposed in 2021 by Representative Scott. My family's and facilities first tax bill, which now we're getting into the facilities part, it would double the top three marginal tax rates, the income tax rates, i.e. those roughly $190,000 and up, and add a new tax bracket at $1 million of 90%. It would also tax capital gains like ordinary income, allow a 100% 20-year carryover deduction of funds given to any entity with an EIN, an employer identification number, just generally businesses, in exchange for ownership shares, and remove taxes on all corporations unless their money is spent on personal remove taxes unless their money is spent on personal products, meals, and other benefits for their shareholders. This would encourage money going into businesses' fixed assets and the workers who use them before the investors gain enough to become rich. My Wealth for All bill would spend $100,000 per year, or send that much, to each resident for a few years, taxable unless spent on purchasing ownership in a company or on a contribution to charity. This would enable and encourage empowering income-raising investment. My Greater Democracy Amendment, another unique idea. But I didn't really feel like having it being like a top 3 idea part of this. It would be presented in a convention if and when Democrats win a strong majority of states. It would include giving citizens the right to veto away any decision that gets between half and 2/3 of the House, that half and 2/3 of the House or Senate agree on, and allowing federal workers in every department and agency to nominate their secretaries and directors, subject to said vetoes. This would protect federal workers and marginalized people such as immigrants and empower us and the people who know what we need most from our government. Now, I might get a little controversial here, but we'll see. So, everyone has the right to be productive and safe, no matter where they are born. Governments like the Trump administration deny that, but I have intentions better than such demagogues. I demand legalization of immigration and a shift of ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement funds, to preventing crime and consensually relocating immigrants who are unemployed for months. So instead of having, let's say, Los Angeles or some cities in Texas being too populated, there could be an arrangements made for people to move into maybe some ghost towns even, or maybe to some towns that have aging populations. Of course, it would have to be consensual, like an offer, but I think things can be arranged. We don't have to just deport millions of people or even hundreds of thousands. I demand official residency for every non-felon immigrant who passes a substantial presence test for 1 year and citizenship for a following year of such compliant presence. Oh, I just realized, I think I covered up the Greater Democracy Amendment here. So there's that. You can read it there for a moment. All right, back to immigrants. All right. I would ban the use of explosives except for those carried by individual soldiers and those that only target military or weapons facilities. I would ban the use of tariffs, sanctions, and embargoes except those that only prevent transfer of weapons. Economic cooperation and communication would become the main foreign policy tactics. Yes. Okay, now we're getting into that big spending thing that I mentioned, I implied with the modern monetary introduction. So, I support a Green New Deal, a up to $30 trillion expenditure on pro-sustainability, anti-greenhouse gas, worker-led changes to the agriculture, energy, construction with the free use of public works, and other carbon-intensive industries into forms that reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Of course, I would also support some subsidies. That would be nice, get some more clean energy at least, improve some buildings here and there, or at least the new ones. That would be nice. I would also support Medicare and education for all. Federal funding for and unionization of all hospitals, clinics, including addiction treatment centers, colleges, vocational schools, preschools, child care centers, and other facilities used for healing, job preparedness, and general education, with directors and managers respectively chosen by citizens and workers by district via elected boards, principals, etc. Or we could just subsidize more, give more to public schools, and fund more clinics. Democrats have been doing that, and I would not be against that. I would support that. But, we could go more, possibly, if there are enough Democrats, if there's a massive sea change in our government and our governments as well. I support free resettlement, language lessons, and useful fixed assets for all refugees, such as Palestinians, whose regions were demolished by the United States military and or allies. So that's a big thing for leftists, you could say, as you could call them. I would support a baby box program to give every family, or I guess new family, a box that contains essential items like clothes and bottles, with the box itself shaped as a bassinet. Full funding of municipality-run, tenant or unionized, healthy public housing. Also, 12 months of publicly paid maternal parental leave and 3 months of paternal leave for fathers. And also, one more thing, a student debt jubilee, forgiveness of all student loan debt. or at least the federal student loan debt. That can, I mean, with congressional approval, that can just be whisked away. Okay, now we're getting into some smaller things. So I would support return-free tax filing for every individual whose income has all been reported in forms sent to the IRS, e.g., forms W-2 and 1099. Income forms, those are, by the way. Checking bank. I'll also support checking banking offered at every post office. A text blocking option for federal do not call list, or for the federal do not call list for hours between 12 a.m. and 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. and 11:59 p.m. So in the evening it's okay, I guess, but I get texts at work all the time, every day, and it's unbelievable. And I'm not aware, right now I'm not aware of any way to stop that besides just every time it shows up, you just say stop. I think it should just stop unless people are out of work, like not busy. I would support approximately equal funding per student net of costs in all public and charter schools. Also increasing the number of public defenders and free public necessities for all prisoners, including communication with free people. Some of these have been actually adopted from other platforms, as you shall see on the credits section. Now then, let's see. We are on restrictions on our government. Yep, I'm not one to say, oh, let's just let the government do whatever. I have certain caveats, certain things that I believe the government should not be so brazen in. So, no federal or state restrictions on abortion and other reproductive health care, or at least the codified Roe v. Wade, except for those against fraud and except for the regulations, restrictions against fraud and against governmental funding of abortion. I think it's called the Hyde Amendment. It's too controversial, too similar to killing for people in general to be paying for directly or sort of slightly indirectly through the government. So fine. Keep it out of the Medicare for All. Have it be something that the private sector or charities get involved with, but don't make everyone pay for it. All right. Legalizing all drugs in doses that do not cause fundamental organ damage. I believe marijuana is one of them, but perhaps there are doses that maybe cause some damage. Maybe everything in certain amounts do, but there are some drugs that are not as dangerous. De-escalation training for all military and police personnel. So no more George Floyd instances. Then banning the death penalty and injurious torture, including waterboarding, electroshock procedures, and solitary confinement. You could say that solitary confinement kind of traumatizes people. I believe that it does. So that would be banned. I would cap all prison sentences at 21 years with the opportunity for extensions or reductions in prison time based on likelihood to reoffend. So if they're less likely, if they have, good behavior, then they would have reductions in their sentences. I would end cash bail, or ban cash bail. Then an adherence of all federal entities to all amendments to the Constitution, because clearly these days that they are not being followed. Not even the First Amendment is followed. It's ridiculous. I would grant all military bases to the United Nations and the International Criminal Court. That's kind of a global perspective. I feel like the United States has been way too biased in the use of these bases, definitely kind of bullying other countries or threatening them. And granted, if given to the United Nations, they would still act in a defensive capacity. They just wouldn't be aggressive with those military bases, sort of threatening other countries. I would repeal the anti-union Taft-Hartley Labor Management Relations Act of 1947. I would free all nonviolent drug offenders and expunge their records. Oh, and by the way, I'm saying I would, but of course I, with the rest of Congress, would. These are proposals, it's a platform. Would legalize consenting sex work, including repealing SESTA and FOSTA. Of course, laws against them, and as well as laws against different drugs, including marijuana, are states' issues. But I don't know. Maybe I just kind of override them. I mean, I just think they're just not fair, and it's not right. Maybe even make an amendment for those issues. Well, I mean, that would be a bit much. But, at the very least, I would encourage states to be more libertarian in these dimensions. All right. Oh, and I think you might not have seen. So now you can see all of these. All right. Now, on corporations and incomes. I would support a comprehensive universal background checks, waiting periods, mandatory safety training, and no gun show loopholes for all firearm purchases and transfers. So if you're just giving someone a gun and they have not gone through those procedures, that would be illegal. Then I would support a $20 federal minimum wage, $23 in cities below 1 million in population, and $26 in more populated cities based on job location. I would support a mandate for recommitting to the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, and CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau operations. Again, this is just kind of a contemporary thing because President Trump just does not care about them. So maybe a Democrat would do that sort of thing, and I would applaud that. Recommitting. I would include gender and sexual orientation in the Civil Rights Act and include gender-affirming care in Medicaid or Medicare for all. I include Medicaid, like it could if we just have Medicaid, then include it in that. If it's expanded, then include it in all that. I would have a division of large high-tech and banking companies based on type of service. So break up the banks, break up big tech. And I mean, we could also implement other like antitrust laws that have been kind of swept aside. So I would be in favor of that as well. Now, kind of a big one, details on democracy. Yep, we need our governments to be more democratic for them to be more efficient and be more reliable. We can't be going into the same situation with what many call fascism going on in our country. We can't be going back and forth, Republican, Democrat, and we bring up a bunch of programs and then we cut them all. We can't keep doing that. We have to have consistency in our government. Otherwise, we're just gonna have, at least, we're definitely gonna have low trust, and of course, we're gonna have people being underserved. So, first off, pretty much a no-brainer, I would repeal the Citizens United Supreme Court decision, that essentially being a decision that allowed like a major form of corruption of financing elections or candidates through I think through super PACs and other corporate ventures. I would support a prohibition of stock ownership for elected officials. I would approve the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. I would support ranked choice voting and runoff elections for every federal position. And I'd have free identification cards and voter registration, unless unaffiliated, unless requested otherwise, for everyone upon turning 18. Mailable paper ballots required for all states with federal ballot maintenance. So we can definitely rely on our elections. We don't have to have, just dangerous people outside who aren't affiliated with the government, who aren't, official people, who aren't accountable. You could even say threatening people and just making it just a mess. Let's see. A higher minimum per capita number of polling place booths. And I guess they would also perhaps include maybe forum locations. Maybe local governments could say, okay, well, let's have this big space and have these big spaces and have them for forums. And if there's an election, just focus on the election. I think that would be nice. But that's a local decision for local governments. Cities, villages, and counties, and everything in between. Let's see here. Paper ballots, polling places, weekend early voting at every public non-school building used as a polling place. So even if there aren't any new ones, maybe there'd be enough going on. Also, kind of an olive branch to, say, the people of January 6th, those rioters. I would have fund or establish grievance rallies between each presidential election and the following confirmations with polls for attendance to rank concerns about incoming administration. So, I mean, if you really care, if you're really worried about the immigrants, or you're really worried about abortion rights, or whatever, you can bring it up when the next president is apparently against what you believe, and then they would see, okay, well, wow, there's like this many people, maybe I should work on this. And finally, the second part of the Greater Democracy Amendment, again contingent on Democratic Party control of most states, this time beyond the executive branch, i.e. essentially beyond the presidential administration. I would subject the Supreme Court to elections with every licensed attorney being able to vote every 4 years. I would limit the terms for those justices and senators and representatives to 12 years effective the next presidential confirmation year. I'd remove the Senate from votes. I don't know about maybe effective their next election. Yeah, that would make more sense. I don't want to cut terms short all of a sudden for those senators with those 6-year terms. Yeah. Speaking of the Senate, I would remove it from votes on non-budget bills. So if those budgets, they got to get through, fine, leave it to the Senate. I mean, after all, the Senate are the people who approve of the cabinet, the people who are going to implement the budget. So I feel like it's appropriate for that. In even numbered years in which they are not up for re-election, have elections for senator recall or removal, or those being synonymous. Then I would finally remove the House of Representatives from votes on budgetary bills. So as I implied, the Senate for the budget, and then the House for everything else, all the little regulations in between. I would increase the size of the House of Representatives to one per no more than 250,000 citizens with no concave districts, no gaps over land. I would replace Capitol Building House, the Capitol Building House Chamber with a new building before enacting this change. And that's that amendment. Of course, as I implied, it's something that is so big that it would require a large amount of support. Maybe if there's, as Bernie Sanders says, there's the political revolution. But it's not. I wouldn't really say it's something to count on. But maybe all the young people will stand up and say, "Hey, wait a minute. Here's something here. What about this? Look at this platform, huh?" The platforms I considered when constructing the parts of this platform, besides the Greater Democracy Amendment, Families and Facilities First Tax Plan, and Contributions for All, include those of Howie Hawkins 2020, Kat Abughazaleh 2026, Mike Gravel 2020, which was crowdsourced, and my electoral rivals as of July 5, 2025, Mike Davey 2026, who has retired or suspended his campaign, and Richard Lamondon 2026. There's also one other person running for this race, District 27, and that person is Robin Peguero. So there's three men going for one race, and I have the campaign that's trying slowly but surely getting off the ground. I got to work on that, but at least now you know what's going on, what's under the curtain, and I hope you learned something. I hope you thought it was interesting. And if you want, you can go to my donation page. As I put down here, I'm an Italian. That's my last name is Italian, but I'm also Cuban American. In fact, all four of my grandparents have different backgrounds. Not only Italian and Cuban, Spanish, but also German and Ukrainian, Jewish, I guess.